So I have to say, LSS continues to impress me. Hello everyone, I'm Andrew, and this is Go Again, a fabulous cast. So I grant you that I probably shouldn't be as surprised given their track record, but after being let down by so many other gaming companies over the years, LSS is really starting to become a breath of fresh air. Why am I saying this? Well, when Arcane Rising came out with the introduction of the 4 new heroes, I think many of us were surprised to see, and even a little disappointed to see that there weren't starter decks for those. So in that time, or since then, many people have asked the question, well, if there were going to be starter decks for these heroes, what would they look like? People have theory crafted it, people have talked about it, and LSS went ahead and on the 30th of March released an article that had what those decks would have been. So that's what we're going to do in this series, is go through the hero decks for Arcane Rising. Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 19, which will be our final video in the series of the Arcane Rising starter decks. And today we're going to look at Viserai. So Viserai, again, the strategy that they outline here is, so before I get into strategy, actually, this guy's really cool, and he has a ton of options, right? He can attack, he's dealing the arcane damage while he's attacking, so he's doing what he wants to do, and he's pinging you along the way. This guy's really very cool, I think, just from the theory crafting standpoint. So the strategy is, they know, Viserai pairs both attack actions with non-attack actions, mastering both melee and arcane damage. You can play both a fast pace or a slow one, attacking aggressively every turn or building up rune chants for a bigger turn. This deck utilizes strong non-attack actions to create rune chants and increase the potential damage of attacks spread across both melee and arcane damage. Advantages: 2 forms of damage makes defending difficult. I'm going to edit that. 2 forms of damage makes complete defending impossible. Disadvantages: consistency. Sometimes you draw attack actions without non-attack actions, or vice versa. And that's interesting, and that in of itself, and again, that's specific to the starter deck, which means that we as deck builders should have a lot of opportunity there to try and tune and make things better. All right, so just a real quick reminder what Viserai does. So whenever you play a Runeblade card, if you've played another non-attack action this card, create a rune chant token, right? Remember those rune chant tokens, when you blow them up, they pop for an arcane damage. But they also, more importantly, trigger a lot of card interactions. So we have Viserai, we have the Blade, we have the Crown of Dichotomy, Vest of the First Fist, Null Rune Gloves, Null Rune Boots, all Arcane Rising equipment. You do notice here that he's a little more balanced than some of the other hero starter decks. I mean, the pitch 1 box is larger, but he has a little more of a spread than everybody else. Pitch 1, again, and he is 20 copies of 3X cards. So 3 Spellblade Assaults amplify the Arc Knight, Drawn to Dark Dimension, Spellblade Strike, Vigor Rush, Reduce to Rune Chant, Oath of the Arc Knight, Blood Spill Invocation, and Lead the Charge, 3 Arc Knights, 3 Blood Spills, 3 Read the Runes, Come to Fight, and Lead the Charge. Those are all the 2 pitches. And then pitch 3 to round it out, Drawn to the Dark Dimension, Rune Flash, Spellblade Strike, Oath of the Arc Knight, Read the Runes, and then Come to Fight. So just going through some of the key cards, or kind of the advantageous cards in the deck. Drawn to the Dark Dimension caught my eye, and this is present in both the 1 pitch and the 3 pitch. Drawn to the Dark Dimension costs 1 less for each rune chant you control. Draw a card. So that's something, I mean, this in itself is not that special, right? This is something we see across a lot of Viserai stuff. But I kind of wanted to put it in perspective of, remember, we're going to be playing the starter deck, and it's not a fully tuned deck with our supers and majestics and stuff like that, right? So functionally, I was trying to wrap my head around how many rune chants do I actually think I'm going to have out? I mean, barring doing anything stupid, how many rune chants do I actually functionally think I'm going to have out at any one time? And the answer I came up with is probably 1 most of the time, right? 1 or maybe 2, unless you're playing something specifically that leads into it. But I think functionally most of the time you're going to have 1 or 2 out there, right? So that's why Drawn to the Dark Dimension, just being a 2, right? It's not hitting for anything super high, but it is playing for 1 or 0, and you get to draw a card off of it, right? Which is pretty nice. Next is Spellblade Strike. This one's also in the 1 pitch and the 3 pitch. Just create a rune chant token, right? So remember, you're going to play this, which is going to blow up any rune chant tokens, and then it creates a rune chant token. So this in of itself, right, just for 1, hits for 4, 5. It actually hits for 5, right? Now, obviously they can defend one easier than they can defend the other, but functionally for 1, you're dropping a 5 attack on the board. That's pretty good. That's in the 1-pitch version, of course. It's less on the 3-pitch. Okay, so kind of some of the cards that set up the deck that I was looking for is Spellblade Assault. This is kind of fits into what I was talking about before. So create 2 rune chant tokens. It hits for 4. It's a 2-drop. This one's not as good, I don't think, as Spellblade Strike. But again, it's another functional card that's, I mean, this one's really hitting for 2. You're hitting for 6, right, in different forms. Then we have Amplify the Arknight. So this one is a 3 cost, but it costs 1 less to play for each rune chant you control, right? And this one's hitting for 6. So again, this one's probably functionally going to cost you 1 or 2 to play. Maybe you can get, you know, some sort of setup to make it free, which of course is living the dream. But in of itself, it's still reduced and it's hitting for 6. And this is only in the 1-pitch. Right, and then kind of the setup cards, we have Read the Runes, which is straight up 0 for create 2 rune chant tokens. You know, the tokens themselves obviously functionally feed a lot of your other cards, but let's not forget that at the very least, those rune chant tokens are popping for an arcane damage. So this card being present for its 2-pitch and its 3-pitch at 0 is the 2-pitch is worth 2 damage, the 3-pitch is worth just 1 damage. That's not bad for 0, right? And again, you can potentially feed your other stuff. I get it, but functionally, these are just 2 damage for 0, right? How many, if you were looking at Kano, like how many times do you play Zap, right? Zap is 3 on the 1-pitch for 0. This is right along those lines, right? It's on the same curve. Plus, it can do more. So I'm liking this a lot, right? Oath of the Arknight, your next Runeblade attack gains +3 and create a rune chant token, right? So this one does cost 2, which kind of stinks, but remember, you're creating a rune chant token that for a lot of cards is going to reduce the cost of that card by 1. So functionally, this card really only costs 1. But I mean, you can make the same argument for the next card too, right? But the next card he plays. But functionally, this one's that you look at the 2 on this and you're like, that's not very good. And I admit it could be better, but it does a lot of what you want the deck to do, which is again pooping out more tokens, right? So Oath of the Arknight is present in the 1 and the 3-pitch. So again, this deck, the overall lines of play, or the overall strategy, I think is pretty straightforward, right? You want to just keep putting on the pressure constantly, and eventually they're going to fall apart in one direction, right? You're gonna, even if they are successfully defending a lot of your attacks, then they're probably not coming at you as hard, so you're surviving, and the longer you survive, the longer pings with the rune chant tokens you put in. So this guy, I think, has a lot of potential. I'm really going to be interested to see what people can do with this deck, right? There are proposals out there, of course, for putting in, the Majestics and the Supers and stuff like that, which goes without saying. Questions of, if I were to modify this deck with some of the older stuff, what would I put in? I think this guy doesn't need a ton of stuff from Welcome to Wrath. There's probably some good options out there. Like, you could play Time Snap Potions trying to get multiple attacks per turn, because a lot of your, some of your stuff is going to not necessarily cost you anything on the first action. Then you're going to have all this stuff left over. So I also would like to see some defense reactions in there just to help prop him up. Because again, remember, as you're staying alive, you're pinging, which is, right, staying alive is almost staying alive, of course, is a win condition, but my point is, stalling for him is a method of dealing damage because you're pooping out those tokens. So anyway, again, I just wanted to thank LSS for doing this as we wrap this up. I know I've been saying it in every episode, but you guys didn't have to do this, and I think going through the effort of doing it, helping the community was really, really nice, and it was really well taken. So thank you for that. If you guys enjoyed the series, let me know below. Going through the starter decks, I think, was a no-brainer, something we should do, but I'm very excited about it. This is going to be a great starting point, not just for me, but for a lot of other people. So if nothing else, go Commando.